Thank you for listening to 103.5. This is It's Time for 5. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and this week I got a special guest, somebody I've been trying to get in the studio with me for so long, and I'm excited for this. He is a good friend. He is a co-host with me every Sunday night on Sun Prairie's favorite show, Pop Culture Time Capsule. Of course, I'm talking about the wonderful Mr. Anthony Deneau. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jameson. Thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely excited, not just to be able to get to co-host one of my favorite shows on the station, but this theme that we have for today is especially epic for you and I and our fandom of some may call it a guilty pleasure.
Yes. And so this week we are talking about something really fun, and we're breaking the rules right out of the gate. So this week we're talking about our favorite wrestling theme songs, but normally we do our 5. The show is Time for 5. But
it's right there in the title.
It is. But you and I, we host a show that is a top 10 list, basically. And so I felt it was only fair that we break the rules and make this It's Time for 10 this week.
It's a double wide.
It is a double wide.
Which, as are most wrestling fans watching the product in.
Right. And I really, 10 was near impossible to get to. I don't know if I could have gotten to 5. I think I would have just canceled the show.
I was cutting off fingers trying to get down to 10 here, man.
Right.
There's iconic,
yes,
absolutely iconic ones that I didn't find the space for it, and even some new ones that I love. There's just no way I could put them on there. I mean, it was so tough. The honorable mentions is going to be thick, I imagine.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's going to reveal a lot about us and our fandom too. I think.
Yes.
I think it'll be kind of interesting to see. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to let you start us off since you are the guest.
Okay.
With your number 10 wrestling theme song.
Okay, number 10. I think I'm starting my list off with something a little bit newer, and it has become very popular. I think it will even more over time. But Japanese superstar Shinsuke Nakamura. The song is done by CFOs, who are kind of the top dogs, really, the last 5 years for WWE. The song is called "The Rising Sun," and it is just it's something special. Like I said, it's hard to overlook some of the classics that we've had.
Let's take a listen to this thing.
All right, here we go.
See what this is.
The crowd singing along, just kind of woes, and
what's interesting is this is also my number 10.
No, stop right now.
I'm dead serious.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. At last minute, actually, I was running my list over with my 12-year-old son Landon, who's going to be taking over the show soon, and he had mentioned it, and it actually we listened to it. And we listened to 2 different songs, kind of back and forth. What was originally my number 10, and I'm like, yeah, this one is a better song, and so this is also my number 10.
I'm very impressed now.
Yeah. It's so great. I mean, when the strings kick in,
yes.
I mean, it's a great song.
And it's in terms of all the WWE collection of songs that are on Spotify, this is in the top 5. I think it has over 2 million plays. And certainly the international superstar helps, but people love this so much that when this wrestler became a bad guy, a heel, he had to change it so that way you couldn't sing along to it. So there's like a Japanese rapper who makes it very difficult to like sing along with in the crowd. So that people love this so much that WWE had to change it.
I love
it. It is just an absolutely great song.
Yeah, it is. It kind of caught me by surprise because I'm kind of in and out on the product recently.
Which is extremely fair.
Yeah. I feel like you can leave for a while and come back and not much has changed. And so with this theme song, I've only heard it a few times. And, most of the times you only get, 10 seconds of it or so.
Yeah.
But actually listening to it, because a lot of these theme songs actually that as I was making my list, I would listen to them and be like, oh, that's only good for like 8 seconds. Oh, I get it.
It has a great part, or it has a great start, but it's not continuously
like,
great.
That keeps going, doesn't it? That's not good.
Yeah. And another thing is, this one is a little bit more special because when he does wrestle at a pay-per-view or something like that, there might actually be a guitarist or a violin player or a piano that kind of start things off in the arena with them playing part of the song before it jumps in. So there's actually a bunch of different really cool versions if you check out the WWE Network or YouTube for some of the crazy different beginnings they've had to this. But as I said, people love this so much they changed it. I mean, that's how about that? Just to make him less likable.
So right out of the gates, we have a tie.
We have a tie, and
we go weeks without ties.
And well, here's the other thing: is for us to tie on this specific one is pretty. Like outside of the box.
It surprises, yeah.
Compared to some of the ones that I think we will have later. This one blows me away that we had the same and at the same spot as well.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
So that leads it right into your next one, number 9 for you, sir.
Gosh. Okay.
Yeah. It's almost like you get 2 picks.
It's almost like I get 2 picks. So the next one, because I want to keep mine with really classics as we get closer to the top 10, I have another new one. This one is a little bit underground. She hasn't hit the main roster yet. She is a former MMA or UFC star. Her name is Shayna Baszler, and this guitar hook with the synth, man, this is what I want to listen to when I work out. I can't get enough of this song. Here it is. This is Shayna Baszler's "Loyalty Is Everything."
That's all over in my head.
It is. It's all over.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. I think as she gets more popular, hopefully the song will as well, but I just couldn't keep this one off. This one I put on my regular everyday playlist because it's just got such a great guitar riff. CFO's got to give these guys a lot of credit for really taking over where Jim Johnston left off a few years ago.
And that's the thing we should talk about real quick is like we're talking all wrestling, but as far as WWE, there's really been just a handful of people. Jim Johnston did most of the music for decades.
Yeah, 32 years he worked for WWE.
Unceremoniously let go a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And now CFOs has kind of become the in-house producer of music. But Jim Johnston, it's most of the songs that you would know from wrestlers, he had either his hand in or did the entire production.
A lot of people could say that Jim Johnston was like the soundtrack to their childhood more so than your favorite band or singer, you know? I mean, Jim Johnston really is everything, and
he's like the John Williams of wrestling.
There you go. Yes. And then Jimmy Hart also, some of the old before Jim Johnston, or Jim Johnston worked with Jimmy Hart, but Jimmy Hart also
Mouth of the South.
The Mouth of the South, and a manager, an on-air character, usually a heel, but kind of a Hulk Hogan's manager and many others along the way. But he also was a great songwriter, and he even had a band back in the early 60s or 50s.
Yeah. Now, you don't know, but that's a perfect segue into my number 9.
Okay.
Because my number 9 was produced by Jimmy Hart. And it is kind of an old school one that came back in recent years as this wrestler came back. This is Goldberg's Invasion by Jimmy Hart. You hear this, go ahead. Let's listen to this for a second. So this mixed with the whole entrance, the banging on the door, the Goldberg coming out, headbutting things, walking with the security guards. That was the Goldberg entrance for so long. This is really, you knew business was picking up, right? He's coming out, he's walking through the fireworks, sucking down the smoke.
Yes.
This theme I like. There's been several ones that have kind of been, you have the big, the badass, you give him this kind of beat, and it's kind of been borrowed many times. But I this one, especially when he was in WCW, like this separated him. Invasion started playing, and you're like, oh man, Goldberg's going to come out. He's going to jackhammer somebody. It's going to be quick. It's going to be painful.
The entrance typically longer than the match by a long shot.
Yeah,
by a long shot.
Yeah, and I dug this, and it felt like something was about to happen.
Exactly, and like you said, you got security with them. Nobody had an entrance that started before what they call guerrilla position.
Yeah, when they go in the back and they're banging on the locker room door.
Exactly.
Like, that doesn't happen normally. We don't show that.
Yeah, who gets a security walk through really all the way up.
I love when somebody asks him, like, why do you need
security
to protect you if you're so big and bad? He's like, no, security's to protect you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I
to
love that.
protect me.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the whole package, but the invasion song, I really dig.
And what also went along so well with it was the Goldberg chants. That was
Right.
really as a part of the entrance, as
Yep.
the
That started to
the
build and
fireworks,
build.
as the security,
Goldberg.
everything. It was all as much a part of it as the music
Yeah.
or anything.
I love it.
So that's another good one.
All right, that puts us at your next pick. Oh, we got some music playing.
That's right.
What do you have at your number 8?
Okay, this is where we started to really get into some classics that I know I'm gonna feel bad that I leave some out, but I am going to go with the NWO theme song. This is a WCW one, but here you go, a little bit of the WCW iconic first 3 classic guitar. If you really Hulk Hogan we'll get maybe more on him later, potentially, but really has been part of some of the greatest entrance themes.
I mean, Hollywood Hogan was a great theme too, coming out of this.
Yep.
The Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child.
Yep. Hey, Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child, you got this. There's a Rick Derringer.
Yeah.
But
This was a good one though, because there was
Yeah.
I mean, a good 3-year stretch where this came on and all of a sudden the screen went black and white and there was the crazy cuts.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's about to happen?
Yep. And they
Who's
play it over
about-
their promos sometimes, like backstage.
Yep.
I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. But this
This
is
makes me think of Hall and Nash so much.
for sure.
Yeah.
This is the classic Outsiders original and Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah.
This is I couldn't get through a top 10 list without this being on there. As much as the hard cuts were there,
That's good.
NWO stays on there, and WCW had some really good entrance music. Certainly not the thick library that
Right.
WWE, WWF has had, but this is to me would be in the top 5 also of WCW theme songs. So
Excellent.
there you go. That's my number 8.
Number 8. Okay. My number 8 is a newer one that the song is, I think it's tremendous. And some people say that it really overshadows everything else that happens after it because the entrance is so grand. I'm talking about Bobby Roode's Glorious Domination.
This is great. This is one of the other new ones that's just
Yeah. And I mean the whole entrance, him in the
Yeah.
robe standing there, the lights on him, he's on a rotating pedestal. It's a great song.
it is.
And this gets the crowd up.
Yeah, and I especially liked it when the song is still great, but when he was the NXT top
Yeah.
heel, very much like an 80s, 70s throwback kind of heel, it really fit perfectly for him. It's a great song. It's you could see this being used in movies or
Yeah.
at the end of a weird montage.
Yeah, this song
or
gets
something.
stuck in my head when I hear it, and
Yeah.
I'll be singing it throughout the day just randomly. But I love it. The problem is this song isn't really versatile, I don't think.
No,
Like,
it's a one-trick pony, really.
it is. Like, I don't know how long the legs are in this one, because after a while entrances wear out, and and most guys change it up at some point in their careers, and this one, I don't know if it's going to get people popping still.
The other thing they say about this is that similar to the Shinsuke Nakamura one, that they think that if they turn him heel, that he'll have to change his theme because once again, people love it so much.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, I suppose.
It is a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
Oh, Bobby Roode. All right,
So that was your number 8.
It was.
I'm gonna go with some Vince McMahon,
Ooh.
or also known as the Corporation. It was used of different times or different ways, I guess. And let's pull it up here. But when the Corporation or Vince McMahon came out, like it was that great combination of great song, but the character you hate.
Oh yeah.
So like it was exciting too because you always knew something was gonna happen. So even
Right.
if though you like visceral hatred of Vince McMahon, this song comes on. He's got all sorts of people with him, whether it be Briscoe and Patterson, or the Corporation or the corporate ministry, whatever it might be. The Mean
Here he
Street
comes
Posse with Shane
strutting
McMahon.
out here.
Oh, and he knew how to work this song too. He had the perfect walk for it. And another Jim Johnston one. And going back to him. On the Beyond the Mat documentary, they do a very small segment with him, but he talks about trying to match the walk or strut of the wrestler, and how he did I think Mastodon is the name of Vader's music, but he was trying to match that kind of walk and that kind of strut to the music or the riff that he had. And this is one that stands up for. I mean, this has been their music his music for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So this one has really standed the test of time, and so many of the people that we have on our list have had a plethora of different entrance themes.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon always just this one. Vince McMahon used to come on to it as well. He's since got his own Here Comes the Money theme, but this one has been good from the Attitude Era.
I mean, and this was really the introduction of him as the character of Mr. McMahon, the owner, not just Vince McMahon, the announcer.
Yes.
So you had to have something to really solidify it in the audience's mind that's seen this guy as kind of the Weasley announcer guy. Suddenly be like, this guy's the boss. And he's not a great guy. He's going to probably screw over your favorite wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a perfect way to do that.
It's a great riff you're hearing, another Jim Johnston. But this one is like you hear somebody say no chance, just like you hear the word glorious.
Yeah.
This song pops in your head, I feel.
That's good. That's good. So my number 7 is one, it's kind of an old school one. It's the entrance is one of the quickest entrances. And this is actually one that I used as my alarm clock for quite a while. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Ultimate Warrior. I mean, you heard this, and all of a sudden this maniac is running at 100 miles an hour down to the ring, running circles around it, trying to tear the ropes off, going nuts, just completely gassing himself out. But this is on my workout routine. Like, this song cannot help but get my blood pumping. It's just the driving bass, that just everything going after. I love this song. And like I say, I mean, usually by this point he's out of steam.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, at least people wrestling him didn't really think he was a great wrestler. And it was as less like he hit harder than anybody else, really, I guess is the best way to put it. Even though it was supposed to be scripted or fake, he did not hold back whatsoever.
Right. I mean, that song, though, Unstable, another Jim Johnston song, is just one of those songs kind of makes me want to run headfirst into a wall.
Yeah.
I dig it. Like I say, I woke up to that many, many, many mornings as my alarm clock.
That's a great way to start your day.
It'll get you on your feet pretty quick.
Yeah. Grab the ropes and just shaking, just an absolute maniac.
It is high energy, to be sure.
And there was always those fun conspiracy theories like, oh, he died. This is a different Ultimate Warrior.
I was debunking that up to a year ago. I
really?
had somebody at work.
Yes, a couple years.
He was like, yeah. Oh, it was a couple years ago when he passed away.
Yep.
And it was like, whoa, but I mean, the real one died years ago. Like, oh my God, we're still doing this.
And that was the reason is because he came back off of steroids one time. Then there was another time that
crazy haircut.
Then the WCW had the Renegade.
Yep.
And then he came back in WCW. A few years later against Hulk Hogan.
Wouldn't take the duster off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, ridiculous. So all these people thought that the regular Ultimate Warrior, the original one, had died, and there was some other guy that they were putting in the paint, or that it was the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. Sure. That was one of the other legends that he was the new Ultimate Warrior.
To find out if it
yeah,
was or
exactly.
Not.
Oh, God.
You got 2 feet? Can't be Kerry Von Erich.
Can't be him. Oh man. So there you go. Okay, good stuff.
Yep. That was number 7.
This is a big one, man. This is a big one. It's the glass shattering.
Oh yes.
Apparently there's a car crash in there too. Is what Jim Johnston said. He added that in there just to get as much as possible. But this is the Stone Cold theme, Stone Cold Steve Austin theme. You heard the glass, the way he walks out. Kind of fast but casual in the face, like cool, calm, and collected. It was meant no good for Vince McMahon. That's almost always the case. But this song, just that, would get bigger pops than a finishing move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And from 98 to 2000, I mean, it didn't get any bigger than this glass shattering. So
right, yeah. I mean, that puts people on their feet. Is just that. I mean, there's certain ones. I mean, you have certain wrestlers get a massive pop, a Road Warriors pop, just from their music hitting. 3 beats, and people are on their feet. This one, it's just the sound of glass breaking.
That's all you needed.
40,000 people are on their feet screaming.
And I think WrestleMania 97 or 98, they actually had the shatter
the
glass.
King falling down.
It was the Stone Cold smoking skull that shattered down for him to come out. There's been other, I guess, variations of it. I think Disturbed took it over for a while when they did crossovers with bands to try and kind of sell more CDs and do a little mainstream metal crossover type thing. But this original Jim Johnston version has got to be my favorite. And it still holds up like when, it's a great riff, which is really, I mean, the Attitude Era was full of
it has to be one, too, for this character in particular, that can just be played and played and played because, many shows ended with him having, a bunch of Stevie Weisers, and this song played for 6 minutes while you watched him crash beers together with, either himself or other people. And so it had to kind of be on a loop and, it couldn't be something that ran out of steam at one point or got annoying at any point.
I didn't think about how important that was because you would hear this looped forever if he was drinking beers, whether him and The Rock had just done a tag team or
he's just stunnered everyone in his vicinity, and he's having more and more beers tossed into the ring and having a celebration for 6 minutes.
Yeah, and you see some of the cuts of when Raw ends, and he just still have that extra 15 minutes where he's just messing with the crowd, drinking beer and pouring beer on Undertaker or Booker T or whoever, just all sorts of stuff. So I can't believe that this is, what is this, number 6?
Number 6, yeah.
Holy cow. Stone Cold didn't make that's where we're at, man. I mean, this is
I'll tweet him. He'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, great.
You're going to get a stunner yourself. And
one of the best finishing moves.
That's right. All right, so my number 6 comes from one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's had a dozen different theme songs, and it was kind of hard to narrow it down, but I ended up going with, kind of after listening to all of them, I went with one called Graveyard Symphony, written by Jim Johnston. This is for The Undertaker. I mean, you talk about glass breaking, that bell tolls, the lights cut out, the smoke pours in. And I mean, talk about entrances. This guy's had a million different entrances to match these theme songs and different druids.
Goosebumps, man.
Whatever, right.
Everything. I was lucky enough to be at WrestleMania this year, and I got to see my one and only Undertaker entrance. And, the fire going, just puffs of flames every few seconds. The druids.
Talk about taking
everything.
Your time getting down to the ring, right?
God.
I mean, ever since the beginning now, and it's kind of, this song has been more or less the theme song. There's been different times in the ministry. Then there was, of course, the time when he hooked up with Limp Bizkit and such to do the theme song. He was the American Badass.
Yes.
Suddenly you got Roland and you got Kid Rock doing a theme song for him.
Yeah, so I put down some of the most, memorable Undertaker themes, and as you said, there's been a dozen plus probably. Yeah. He started up with the funeral parlor kind of music that was really just piano. Then he got into this more Undertaker classic, which is kind of what you're hearing now, which I think he used before and after that American Badass theme. Yep. But there was music for the Ministry of Darkness. Mm-hmm. There was music for the corporate ministry.
Right.
That was the crossover between what you heard earlier from Vince McMahon mixed with the ministry music. Then he left for 6 to 8 months, came back as American Badass with Kid Rock.
The Red Devil.
Yeah.
He's a motorcycle rider.
Yeah, what the hell. And then another 6 months, he got Limp Bizkit rolling.
Yeah.
Then another 2 versions of his own Dead Man Walking.
Right.
There was also music for his a tag team with The Big Show. It was very weird. It only lasted 2 months or so in the fall of '99, but they had their own music.
Of course.
And then, of course, once he died again in 2003, came back in 2004 with, once again, What You're Hearing, which is really the most iconic Undertaker music, right?
Yeah. And it's the one that I associate with, again, like Stone Cold. Like, this is going to play out as he has both his entrance and at the end of a WrestleMania match.
Yes.
While he kind of just lays, he's there and this is going to play. But I mean, everything about the entrance, the music is iconic. It fits one man. It fits Undertaker so perfectly.
Yes.
And it's an iconic song. I love it.
It is amazing, and I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, we heard it in 2018 at WrestleMania, and also in 1998 at King of the Ring in the Hell in a Cell with Mick Foley, the same theme song. I mean, 20 years, and it still holds up again.
For me, the Undertaker theme, I think because of his association with WrestleMania for so long in the streak, it has a big game feel to it.
Absolutely.
Whoa. When you hear this, it's going to be a big match. Yes. Undertaker doesn't wrestle a lot of, Billy Kidmans and such. I mean, it's usually top of the card. He's having a huge one.
So Billy Kidmans,
that's my stuff. Number 6, Undertaker.
Number 6, Undertaker. Very good, very good. Okay, for my number 5, I got to go with a great song and another great entrance, but this was another Attitude Era classic. You're listening to The Brood, which is, of course, Gangrel Then Edge and Christian would eventually join the Brood as Edge's brother. Gangrel, kind of a vampire. They were like the
kind of.
Well, he's he's a freaking vampire. The other guys was always in question,
Yeah.
like Edge maybe is.
Yeah, maybe.
But they're just like his vampire
Gangrel had the
lackeys.
fangs, though.
But Gangrel had the legit fangs and
Yeah.
the pirate shirt, like
Right.
Jerry Seinfeld. I don't want to be a pirate.
It's a puffy shirt.
Yeah, it's a puffy shirt. Exactly. The pirate look was coming back hard in 1998.
Right.
But I always love this music. And then another thing goes, so much of us talking about these music, the songs themselves, is also the entrance that
Right.
goes
Oh, yeah,
along
they're
with
tied
them.
hand in hand.
The visuals that you get, and these guys come up from the stage in a literal ring of fire.
Yeah.
And I guess Edge even had his like pleather jacket just cinched against his skin one
Nobody
time
wants
and had to
burned
peel it off.
pleather.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing smells like burnt pleather.
Oh man.
But that's how hot it would get when they would
I believe
be,
it, yeah.
coming from underneath the stage. It's a very like, I don't know, 80s rock and roll type of thing.
Sure.
It seemed to me. But great entrance, really great music. I love this
Inspired by
theme.
the Lost Boys.
Very much a Lost
Right?
Boys thing.
I mean,
Yes.
Gangrel. I remember the first time I saw him, I was
Yeah.
like, "It looks like Kiefer Sutherland."
Yeah.
Holy crap!
Right. Yes. Oh, I like that. Okay. But I couldn't hold off the Brood. They're one of
Yeah,
the.
that's a good one.
They're a lot of these guys that we're talking about are like main event
Legends.
players and legends and Hall of Famers.
And then
Not
there's
nec-
Gangrel.
And then there's Gangrel. But this music is one of my all-time favorites. I had to have it on there. But there you go, the Brood coming in at my number 5.
That's good. How much time we got? What are we at? Any idea?
We're halfway through the show.
Okay, this is good.
We're actually right where we're supposed to be.
good. Okay, so my number 5 is
Never happens when Jeff's here.
So my number 5 is he's a legend, and this song might not be one that really pops out to you, doesn't jump out like Stone Cold or Undertaker, but kind of like your Brood Gangrel song. It's one that sets a mood for me, and I think it's one of the best songs of 1980s WWF. It is right here. Jake the Snake Roberts,
Ooh.
Snake Bit from Jim Johnston.
There you go.
This one,
Feel that synth. Feel that synth bass.
it has this intensity, but it's subdued. It's very much Jake Roberts, and then it kind of has this atmospheric. I mean, to the point where it was used. I think 1989 SummerSlam. They were doing a background thing showing Hulk,
Like the pump up Rocky type
showing
video.
Hulk Hogan getting ready, and they used Jake the
Yes.
Snake's music to it.
Okay, I've heard Conrad Thompson mention that.
Yeah,
Like,
this
why are you
was
guys
like,
using
because
the?
this is intense.
Yeah.
This is like, yeah.
This is another, even maybe more so than the Glorious we heard for Bobby Roode earlier. This is a 80s montage video, and
Yeah.
it literally,
Yeah.
that's what they used it for
Right.
at one point too. And another thing with the music is Jake had this, he wasn't loud and fast. He was
No.
kind of the opposite of Ultimate Warrior. He was quiet, subdued. His walk was slow. He took his time with everything. You hear some of his talk, he talks about the way he flicks his hair, the way he looks at somebody.
Everything was meticulous
Yes.
for a reason.
And they say that he's one of the best wrestling psychologists of all time because he had things down to a science. And he just, it's sad in a lot of ways that the drugs have derailed his career in a lot of ways, but these last few years, he certainly has gotten stuff together. DDP
Yeah,
yoga.
right.
It's been a life changer, but it's really great to see him in a spot where he maybe down the road, hopefully soon, he can help more wrestlers with how they're doing
Exactly.
because he is
The psychology.
yeah, behind the behind the scenes stuff, he just gets it, and it'd be good to see him used in that
Absolutely.
great mind the way it ought to be.
I always loved Jake the Snake because he was that guy. He was a tweener between whether he was good or bad. He felt like he was always out for
Yes.
himself. He didn't care. He wasn't joining allegiances most of the time. His music, it was very much like him. It wasn't flashy, but it was ominous. And that's exactly who he was. He
That's a
was coming
good-
out.
yes.
He was out to do business. He didn't care, but you knew he was dangerous, and somebody was going to get Damien draped over him at some point.
So then also along with that, do you think, because you say was he a good guy, was he not? Is he one of the first guys that kind of was the heel that people liked to almost root for?
He was the anti-hero.
But like before we got to, the Stone Colds or the cool heels like the NWO
Yeah,
or
I do. I think so. I mean, because more often aligned with what you would consider the faces, but never really like he wasn't making a lot of saves out there. He was
Right.
fighting, Rick Rude and stuff. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he must be the good guy. But then when you watch his actions, you're like, he's kind of out for himself.
Yeah.
Kind of just his own guy.
And the way we talk about how cerebral he was very much ahead of his time. And I think that he's a guy who would fit into any era. And you go back and look at his era, he is a tall dude.
Yeah.
He does not have the body that anyone else has at that era from wrestling. You had to be just a huge monster giant, or you had to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
And he was neither of those things.
Yeah.
He was very tall, but he was kind of slender.
But you knew that he liked going home and crack some old Milwaukees.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, you knew that he was smoking Winstons and drinking old Milwaukees in back.
Yes.
He was not Rick Rude. He wasn't any of those guys.
But I think that's what made him people attracted to him, is because he's like, man, that's my neighbor who gets too drunk on Sunday afternoons. Like that's the guy.
He's always yelling at the kids as they go down the sidewalk.
And just
talking about he's gonna go get a snake.
Oh man, he's great.
I mean, you got to be kind of weird when you're the snake man. You got to drag that thing around from airport to airport all the time.
Very true.
That's got to get old.
That's good.
All right, we are rolling into our top 5. If you are just tuning in, you're listening to It's Time for 5 right here on 103.5 The Sun. I'm Jameson Rabbit. I am joined this week by my good friend Anthony Deneau. You can hear us along with Jeff Robbins every Sunday night at 8 o'clock because we're talking about Pop Culture Time Capsule. But this week, I got you right here all by yourself talking about wrestling theme songs.
That's right. It's just not Jeff Robbins' forte.
It's not. I tried. I asked, and he had no interest.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like, "All right, all I know is Bruno Sammartino. That was it. What's his theme song?" I was like, "Go to bed, Jeff." Anyways.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
All right, but having said that, we're at number 4, right?
Yeah, I think
Holy
so.
cow.
We're getting down there.
My goodness, yeah. All right, I'm glad it's your choice. Ooh. Yes.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks that drives a girl.
Oh, man. It doesn't get too much better than this. It is at number 4, so maybe it gets a little bit better, but this is an all-time classic. He sings his own entrance theme.
Yeah.
This has worked for him from before even D-Generation X, right? Really not too far outside of him being in the Rockers. And he still came out to this into the 2000s.
For sure.
And it still just works for him. He dances to it, and he admittedly is not a good singer or dancer.
I agree.
But he knew how to shake it at least down to the ring.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that. But it's just such a fun song.
Yeah.
Like, it is so 80s, and it came out in the early 90s, but he stuck with it, man, and it worked for him. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, I mean, you paired him with Sherry Martel on this song, and it does feel very 80s. But I mean,
she originally sang it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, she sings the opening.
Okay.
She's the female voice.
Okay.
She sang the female voice in the original version.
Okay.
They were paired up when this came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was since replaced. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this song, it's funny. It's one of the guys who's kind of hung with the same theme song,
which
for
is
the majority of his career.
Extremely rare. And one that didn't necessarily fit the Attitude Era.
No.
Or the post-Attitude Era, which was in some cases even more raunchy.
Yeah.
And then continued to use it into the PG era when he would eventually retire, I think 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
He was still using it up against Undertaker's.
Yeah.
For 2 years straight at WrestleMania, you had Undertaker using his theme that you had earlier, and then this one as well. So, I mean, just 2 all-time classics. At number 4, Shawn Michaels, Sexy Boy.
I love it. All right, so my number 4 is another one. So as I was making this list together, putting this list together, I realized that I actually use a lot of wrestling theme songs as my alarm clocks.
Yeah.
You say, how many alarm clocks do you have? Well, I set 4 alarms in the morning because I get up before, at dark 30. So I have several alarms that wake me up, and this was another one that would wake me up. And it's kind of a newer one, and I just love the mood that it sets. And I was pretty sure. Oh, here it is. It's Bray Wyatt.
So good.
Live in Fear by Mark Crozer. This one just really sets that ambiance to it. And, there's the entrance, the lights go out, he's got the lantern. But it's just, there's the creepy lyrics that,
without a doubt,
oddly are very fitting despite the fact that it wasn't written for him.
It was written before the Bray Wyatt character ever existed.
But it fits so perfectly.
Absolutely.
As this creepy Southern hillbilly cult leader.
Yes.
It's so weird. It creeps my wife out. She asked me not to have this as my alarm clock anymore because she didn't like waking up to this.
Yeah, I don't
like
eerie.
hearing that song in my sleep. But it's almost hypnotizing. And I mean, you have the fireflies of all the lights out, all the flashlights and camera lights going off as he's coming out with holding his lantern and the rocking chair and everything about his gimmick, which I just love. especially when it first came out. Like the first time I heard this song, I was like, "Oh, I like this," and then it kicks into this big choral. I mean, it's just so creepy. I love it so much.
No, and the crowd participation with the fireflies and the cell phone flashlights it's so good. Everything about this really worked well. And you talk about how they, you mentioned when they first came out with this, it really was super fitting and still is. But when he had he was the cult leader, like you said. You remember True Detective on HBO? Did you ever see that?
Oh, yeah.
When this character came out, especially with the Wyatt family and this song, it reminded me so much of that first season where you get Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and you're not really sure what's going on, but there's some creepy stuff going down in Louisiana and these backwoods bayou cults, and that was what I kind of attributed this character to, and I know it was more of a take on Cape Fear. Is what a lot of people say that was it was.
I mean, that's why I like the Hawaiian shirt.
Yes, which is parts of the Cape Fear-esque character that they took from. I can't think of his name.
With De Niro's
character in Cape Fear, and but I really liked the kind of the tie-in with True Detective. I really enjoyed that, and that first season of True Detective to me is one of my all-time favorite seasons.
I think they've been trying hard to replicate that season,
which has been the issue for 3 or 4 years now.
To catch.
Yeah, and it's 8 episodes of just gold. But that character, I was so excited when he first came out because it reminded me so much of what was going on in True Detective, and I was so blown away by both the Wyatt family and that first season of True Detective. Like I said, the Louisiana backwoods.
I never thought about
that. Creepy stuff. But I was like, oh, that's a great idea for them to do a character on.
Yeah. By the way, Max Cady is the guy trying to pull.
Max Cady, okay.
From
Cape Fear?
Cape Fear, yep.
Very good.
So, yeah, Bray Wyatt is my number 4 pick.
All right, man.
Yeah,
we're
in the
really
top 3,
working our way down. All right, we're going to go with D-Generation X. And I'm not just going with your standard DX.
Oh.
I am now. But this is how I'm using mine as a big cheat here.
Okay.
Because I'm using this as an umbrella to
the
incorporate
DX.
Because there's the DX band that also did X-Pac song. They also did a Triple H song. New Age Outlaws kind of did their own thing. But I still would include that. But then this we'll let this kick in for a second here. Okay, so you have that. As I said, they also did X-Pac. They did Triple H, a Triple H one that I really love. When they did a crossover on hip-hop, this was super cool because one of my favorite hip-hop groups at the time, Run DMC, got to do the DX song.
Really? I don't remember that.
So I'm gonna throw that on for you guys. This is the DX song, but with Run DMC, putting their spin on things. There you go. We'll give you a little flavor of that
I like
one.
it.
You like DX? Are you a fan of DX versus NWO? Are you an NWO guy?
I was an NWO guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
They came first.
Yeah.
They weren't as raunchy as DX was.
I was, during the Monday Night Wars, I was full on WCW.
Oh, really?
I was like, people would flip back and forth.
Yeah.
I would watch WCW and click to WWE during the commercials as opposed to the other way. And so I would only catch WWE in snippets, WWF at the time in snippets.
Yeah.
And DX, I did. The first time I saw him, I was like, oh, that's cute. You guys are trying to do the same thing, only with lesser guys.
Right.
I get it. I grew to appreciate him, but I wasn't.
So, no, that's fair to see. And I originally was too, but I got into wrestling more like in '99, and it was only a month or two before I was like, I think WWF's got a
the writing was on the wall at that point.
Oh, it was bad. I think AOL had already really had their Time Warner merger and was really starting to ruin things. But the 95 through 98 WCW is far and away more consistent and better than WWF during that time, even though I do love some of the DX stuff. But I had to. So I wanted.
I like that. That's a good cheat, though. Just take it all.
Yeah. So
that would be like me coming in. My number 8 is all of Jim Johnston's music.
Right. Yeah. We'd only have 3. We had CFOs, Jimmy Hart, and Jim Johnston. But I do got to get this last one in here too. It's one of my favorites of all time. Tell me if you don't love this one.
All right.
I'm a nice
Oh, yeah. Billy Gunn.
Billy Gunn, badass Billy Gunn.
man.
This is great. I know this is not the DX band, but he used this while he was in DX, so
Yeah.
I'm using my cheat to the fullest here.
That's good.
But my goodness.
I love 'em. I love to kick 'em. I love to shove 'em. I love to stick
See how long we can play that on 103.5.
Right, yeah.
This song. So there you go. I'm at number 3. I'm going with D Generation X. There's a ton you
In
could do
all
there.
incarnations.
All incarnations. We didn't even play three of the versions
Yeah.
from X-Pac, New Age Outlaws, or Triple H's first, his first theme song, at least with DX.
Yeah.
But it's all by the DX band, other than the one that you just heard. But I'm a big fan of DX and the DX band. I always wanted them to release more music.
Yeah.
But I guess they played a live WWF event and just got booed out of the
Really?
building. Like, people just hated it. And even though people liked the DX song, they for whatever reason just hated the DX band and wouldn't that was it
funny.
after that.
Here we got some originals we want to play for you guys. Boo!
Yeah.
Here's some
No
off our
thanks.
new album. Get off the
Yeah,
stage.
yeah. People, they were not happy. They did not do well.
Play the DX song again.
Yeah.
We played it 3 times.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so my number 3 is from, I guess he would be one of my top 3 favorite wrestlers ever.
Okay.
Full stop. And he's had different versions of this kind of same song. And he's a Renaissance man if there ever was one. Here we go.
You know I gotcha.
There it is. This is the one.
Okay.
Sorry.
One, break the one.
Chris Jericho is my number 3. Little issues trying to get this to play, but Chris Jericho with "Break the Walls Down." I love, like, one of my moments that I pop for even as an adult is Royal Rumble like 4 years ago. He was on one of his retirements, as he's been known to do now over the last 5-6 years, and the clock ticks down, and all of a sudden Jericho, the Y2J, pops up. This song, "Break the Walls Down," hits, and I'm marking out in my living room. Like, I love it. This version isn't my favorite. Like, there's the newer one that he's been using.
Yeah.
That's the one.
There's a few of them, and I love the countdown. But this is my number 2.
Yeah.
So so you can keep this one rolling. I got
very
this one
good.
too. Chris Jericho. He's the perfect kind of wrestler. I hated him as a kid, despised him, only to grow to love him over the years, just because you realized, I was supposed to hate him, and that I did.
So smarmy,
over and over.
so
He's
cocky,
so smarmy. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
Very
God.
smug.
I love him when he's a heel. As much as I want to love him as a good guy, when he's a heel and he comes
that's
out,
when he's at his best.
and he's sneering.
Oh my God.
And all of the different incarnations, like I've loved Jericho.
Samurai Pony.
For decades. I've been like, I've always kind of been the guy who likes the bad guys. And so even back then, when he had the weird colored hair and the pony and just was a total jackass, like, I like this. And then he comes back and now he's got the haircut. And, there's the version where he came back and he had the light up jacket.
Yes.
And there's the version, of course, where he has the list.
The
and
list.
the scarves.
Kevin Owens.
I
God.
mean, all of these things where you're just like, he's so punchable, but I love him.
Yeah. And you
Everything about him.
I mean, 20 plus years. Even go back to his WCW stuff from like '96. He wrestled like 30 matches there over a few months span.
The Lionheart Chris
yeah,
Jericho.
yes. Or in Japan he was Super Liger. In Mexico he was Lionheart or Corazon de Leon. I mean, all these different iterations, and to this day he's still. You could seriously, guys. I know if in 2018.
Yeah.
Jericho is still one of the best wrestlers
Putting
in the
on
world.
some of the
and one
biggest
of the most
matches in
important.
the world.
He's got a cruise coming up in a couple months where he's got all these wrestlers, comedians, musicians, everybody coming on this cruise that's going to sail around, the Caribbean and the Atlantic Ocean. And he just went to New Japan earlier this year as well, and had a great stint there, almost as a different wrestler or it's a different persona that he plays there than what he plays right now in WWF.
He can really do. He's gutsy enough to, at the height of his wrestling, to go, I'm going to take some time off because I want to try being a rock star. And I might as well do it now. And he took a ton of heat for it. Like, really? You're going to go be a rock star? Fozzy sucks.
Yeah.
And he stuck with it and broke through with that. And then at kind of the cutting edge of podcasting for wrestlers, before every single guy who's ever stepped foot in a ring had a podcast, Jericho's one of the first guys.
Yep.
That said, I'm going to do podcasts. And he has the cachet and the ability to just kind of come and go at his own will and kind of write his own character how he wants it, because he's earned that. And, he just kind of He comes up with what he wants and kind of. And the best thing about him as a wrestler, I mean, we're just talking about theme songs, but
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in his career, he's a legend. He's one of the greats of all time, one of the most respected, and he's more than willing to keep going out and putting over young guys. Like, you want to make Kevin Owens look great? Put him with me. I'll make him look great. You put anybody you want, I'll make him look great. Take him to the next level. They'll beat me. I'll go home. He's just great. And the theme song, though, just gets me every time.
And there has been a few different iterations, I guess, but really has basically been the same since he debuted in the fall of 1999 against The Rock.
Yeah.
But it's really, for 19 years now, he's used that music. As you said, a Renaissance man. He does the rock star thing, and while it's not necessarily my cup of tea, I give him a lot of respect. They play shows at... they've headlined their own tours. They are a big deal. Fozzy is the real deal.
Yeah.
And also to be one of the best at podcasts. And his podcast, it's not just about wrestling. I mean, because he's such a good... he is involved in the music world. He does have all these other great stories, not just back scenes of wrestling, but also in music. One of my favorite podcasts from this last year was him and the comedian Brian Posehn,
yeah.
and then a wrestler by the name of Frankie Kazarian combined to do. They did this podcast just about how much they either like Metallica's Ride the Lightning or Metallica's Master Puppets.
Passionate discussion.
And they went through every single track of each of them, matching them up all along the way. It was a really fun podcast. They've done this about the Beatles and maybe different Iron Maiden different albums and stuff like that. But he's got a great book or two. A lot of my friends who are wrestling fans have read Jericho's books and really enjoy his story. But yeah, Chris Jericho all the way, man. Huge fan. So
that's good. So that was your number 2.
That was my number 2. So it kind of brings it back to you for your number 2.
How are we looking on time here? I got 20 minutes to talk about this one.
Yeah, just this one. We're down to 10 minutes.
Okay,
which is
right.
pretty good.
I'll make this very quick then. So my number 2 is actually a tie. So I'm going to talk about these as they both play. Here's the first one. These are tied. This one is the first one. It is 2 wrestlers who took iconic music. I tried not to take wrestlers who use like pop music, so that's why like CM Punk in Cult Personality isn't on here.
Yes, while I love it.
But there's 2 wrestlers who took like not wrestling music, took classical music and made it their own, got themselves over as, in the biggest way possible. The first one we're hearing here, of course, is Ric Flair. I mean, taking the music from 2001. This does not seem like a theme song. The other one I have here is another one. The guy taking a theme song. Oh, that's his ads. Who taking a theme song that everybody knows and still getting it over in a way that is just remarkable to me. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get this to play.
Of course.
How about that?
You had to.
The graduation song.
No, both of these two.
Pomp and Circumstance.
Yeah.
It's Randy Macho Man Savage, my favorite wrestler who ever walked the earth. And again, to take this song. This is the song that everyone who's graduated high school has walked down and gotten their diploma in. How is this a song that you would come down in?
It's not.
As a wrestler.
Whatsoever.
What's intimidating about this?
But he made it.
Oh, do you have your graduation cap with you? I love it. I love because it's 2 guys who, I mean, Flair started it, but with the robes and the glitz and the glamour, and then Macho Man not too long afterwards in the WWF came in with the sequined robes and everything about him and the showmanship and coming down with lovely Elizabeth. And this it set them apart because it was different in a time when not every wrestler had a theme song too. That this and just All Eyes on Me basically is what both of these songs are doing. It's like I'm here in a sequin robe playing classical music, All Eyes on Me.
Absolutely.
I'm not messing around. I'm bigger than the song. The song doesn't have to get people on their feet. I'm going to make this song something special. It's great. Oh, here we go. You can keep going. Anyways, Macho Man and Ric Flair, I think the 2 of them have, in similar but very different ways, have just great theme songs.
That's a great tie to have because they both borrowed music.
Yeah.
And the only person I can think of that's really done that recently would be Daniel Bryan with Flight of the Bumblebees.
Right, Flight of the Valkyries.
Or Flight of the Valkyrie, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's Matt Hardy might use some sort of Beethoven or Bach or something along those lines. But And wrestling fans, when they hear the two songs that you just played,
Yeah.
they think of Macho Man and Ric Flair.
Oh, yeah.
They don't think of any more of the Graduation. But it's funny how that completely reverses. But yeah, they're not intimidating theme songs whatsoever.
No.
You're not like, I'm gonna get my butt kicked right now.
Yeah.
But they used them to perfection. And Macho Man, really another guy that was like the bad guy that.
I mean, that's
won
where it
you
started
over.
for me
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
even more so than Jake the Snake.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it started. And, I met him when I was a kid, which kind of cemented him as my guy. But he was the guy who kind of floated good and bad, and I stuck with him no matter what.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's my number 2, my tie at number 2. It's the only way I'm cheating this week.
Pretty good. Do you usually cheat?
I usually cheat, yeah. I mean, we'll do 5.
the
I'll have
fullest?
13. But
Okay.
but anyways, so we already talked about your number 2.
We talked about number 2.
I got a feeling we might be talking about the same thing here at number 1.
Really?
You think so?
I don't.
Oh!
I wonder if we are, but
Okay, go ahead.
all right, here
You're
we
number
go.
1.
My number 1.
Oh, wait, you know what? Don't play
Is this where we do honorable
We
mentions?
gotta do honorable mentions.
Okay.
I'm all out of whack. I don't
That's
know what I'm
fine.
doing.
We're,
Okay.
we're like crossbreeding here,
We are.
so
We are. So before we get into our number 1, of course, we always do our honorable mentions. I trust that you have a couple of honorable mentions to talk about.
I
Now, we don't have time to play the
Yeah.
songs, but we
Okay.
can just kind of name them off.
all right.
What do we got?
Some of them are so bad they're good, like
Ooh.
a Sexual Chocolate Mark Henry.
Yeah, yeah.
WCW's West Texas Rednecks, Rap is Crap is kind of a random one. The Harlem Heat. Dun,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
dun, dun, dun,
That's a good
dun.
one.
I love Taz. I know that's underground. Mean Street Posse to me is that fun little, little reggae beat. The Godfather, Ho Train. There's a new one that I really love, Aleister Black. That's CFOs with a band that it's also combined with the greatest current entrance we have, where he kind of rises like from the crypt
Yep.
in the smoke all around. So I love that. So those are some of my honorable mentions. And then there's an 8-bit one. I'm just gonna play a half a second.
Okay.
Here. This is TJ Perkins, Filipino California
Okay.
superstar. I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit here. Okay, so he's got the full 8-bit
like
video
that. I like
game,
that.
and once it breaks in here,
I can go with that.
that's
I'm okay with
that's
that.
good stuff, man.
That's nice.
I love it. It's all, like an 8-bit video game, That could be
Yeah.
a Burger Time theme song or
Right.
something, right? So, yeah, I absolutely love that. Those are my honorable mentions, man. That was tough.
I
I
know.
feel like I'm still leaving legendary ones off.
You are.
Mankind.
All kinds of them.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
All right, what do you got?
My honorable mentions, I had Dusty Rhodes, Just a Common Man.
Just a Common
I
Man.
love
That's
that so much.
classic. Ah.
I also had Batista's I Walk Alone. I kind of like
That's
that.
I hate Batista
Yeah.
for the most
Yep,
part.
me
Other
too.
than him, I'm okay with him as Drax and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hate him. Love the music. though.
Yeah. Mr. Perfect. I love Mr. Perfect's theme
Yes,
song. Just-
and Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair's have offspring that use remixed versions of both of their
exactly.
music.
I also loved Legion of Doom. What a Rush.
Yes.
Just Hawk coming in with that. The rest of the song is probably lesser, but
Yeah.
oh, what a rush. And I love the Four Horsemen's song. Oh, and one more, new one. The one that was actually my number 10 before Shinsuke came in and knocked
Yeah.
it off was AJ Styles' Phenomenal.
That's a really good song too.
I really like it. The
thought
problem
about that.
is I think that it falls off after about 40 seconds in.
Yeah.
I think that the beginning of it is tremendous, and then you get into like talking about I'm just a country
Yeah.
boy, blah blah. Like okay,
Yeah, some of its part is it's fit too. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know how much it fits AJ.
Yeah.
I think like you said, the first certain amount does just because it's that great of a song, but it does get a little bit weird. Yeah, breaking
it
this
loses
redneck
steam,
or whatever. It does
but,
lose steam.
But yeah, that was originally my number 10
Very
before
good.
Shinsuke came around. So all right, now it's time, sir. Now you can reveal what your number 1 is.
Okay, I feel like we have the same song but from different eras, basically.
We might not. I think we're all over. Oh, look at this.
Oh, little John Cena. To me,
Pretty good. You like this over Basic Thugonomics, huh?
yeah, God, Basic Thugonomics. I've heard the whole CD, man. It's better than you'd think, but still not worth listening
Yeah.
to more than once ever.
Yeah.
I think this is it, man. I think this is the greatest of all
pretty
time.
good.
I think people still, if you ever watched wrestling, you can hear this and be like, "Oh yeah." But I think I know who you might have as number 1, and maybe it's similar to this, but or
Perhaps.
not. Only in the way that it's like iconic for the top guy at the time. Or
You might be right.
okay, I just think this is that version of maybe your number 1. But should we move on over to yours?
I realize I don't have my number 1 on my list. I have to look it up. I didn't add it into my list. How did that work out? That's interesting. All right, let me find my number 1 real quick. Yeah, you are right though. I think in your determination. Here it is. Here's my number one. There you go. Rick Derringer.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I had a feeling. It makes sense.
I mean, it is. It's the song.
They're the
every
two
main
most
event
iconic.
ended with this song
Yes.
being played.
Hogan Must Pose.
Hogan Must Pose. This is... Oh, this is a different version. I don't like this version at all. I'm going to play this one while I'm talking. Not only that, not only just the thing of this was the main guy. This is Hulk Hogan. He was
Yes.
wrestling. This kind of differentiates our different generations.
Yeah, it does. And
It's who
while
we grew up
I
with.
still like the real American to me, I get that. Or I mean, I get how big it is for wrestling, and I think that John Cena really is this version
Oh,
of
absolutely.
it, in a lot of ways. But
I mean, this song though,
they're the
even
two most iconic.
growing up watching wrestling, every time a bad guy was getting the upper hand,
Yeah.
taking advantage of somebody, Heenan's guys were taking advantage of somebody, you knew all of a sudden this would hit, and the whole crowd would turn because they
Yeah.
knew Hulk was coming to save the day.
Yes.
Like I said, every time that there was a main event, a pay-per-view, it was ending with this song on a loop for about 10 minutes while he
Right.
posed to all four corners, pretend he couldn't hear anybody. It's got great lyrics. I mean, it's phenomenal.
It's one of the most fitting,
Odd part is, it wasn't originally his.
Oh, really?
The song was originally written for the U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham. They
Oh my
used it
God.
in WrestleMania 1,
Really?
and then Hogan took it after that. But this
God.
was not originally for them. This was a U.S. Express song, and Rick Derringer thought this was going to be like the next. He wanted this to be like the next national anthem. When
Yeah.
he wrote it. He wanted this to be like Lee Crawford's, patriotic song.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, it got attached to the superstar of Hulk Hogan that
Yep.
just superseded everything. But
Yeah.
it's so good.
He transcended wrestling.
Gives me the chills when I hear it.
Oh, it's great. I mean, and my friend who we're getting there, but I'll fudge with it.
All right.
So my friend, even as an adult, and he went to see Raw a few years ago in Green Bay, and he's not a big Hulk Hogan fan, but Hulk Hogan showed up that night, and even then he stood up and screamed like out of
Yeah.
not even knowing that it was going to happen, and having Hulk Hogan show up. It's
Yes.
just like, if you're a wrestling fan, you love this. This is it ties into wrestling so perfectly, and you hear it in other pop culture places, or used on a Family Guy episode or whatever. Like, it's such a perfect song.
It's got the great video that they made
Yeah.
of Hulk out there with his red, white, and blue guitar, trying to make you believe that he was
Yes.
playing it, and just it's
Awful air guitar.
oh yeah,
Pretend guitar playing.
guitar, and then borrowing from Rocky, where he has
Yeah.
1,000 kids following
Yeah.
him down the street. Just everything that was American was Hulk Hogan, and So I kind of wrote this one at number one, and then filled out the rest of the list off of this, but.
Understandable.
Yeah.
It's
funny though. It is very much we very much had.
It
similar
really
but
is the
different.
same thing in a lot
Yeah.
of ways,
Yeah.
but very representing of their eras.
That's great. That's great, sir. I am so glad we got this done finally. I think we need to do another show in the very near future. We have so much
agree.
meat left on the bone to talk
Yeah,
about.
oh my! Even with this topic, I feel like there's honorable mentions of honorable mentions
Right.
that were
We got worst
that were
ones. There's so
mentioned.
many terrible ones.
Oh
we
yeah,
could still
right
talk
to
about.
censor.
Yeah,
I'm
there's-
just throwing that one out there
There's a lot of bad
before we
ones.
get started. But yeah, there's some bad ones.
Yeah, and so that might be a topic in the near future. But before we leave you, of course, I want to remind you that you can continue listening to this show and this station anytime if you download the 103.5 The Sun app for your Apple and Android devices. You can find this show as well as other shows that we talk about on sunprairiemediacenter.com. Go to the on-demand player there. You can find all of our previous work for the last month or so, including Anthony's show. Sir, why don't you let the people know where else they can find you?
Well, speaking of wrestling, I host a show about wrestling at 8 p.m. Wednesday nights right here on 103.5 The Sun. It's called the Schmozcast. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search the Schmozcast or the Schmozcast Men in Tights. It's Thursday mornings. I host a morning show. You've been a part of that a few
Sure,
times,
yeah.
7 a.m. to 9 a.m. They call it Good Morning Sun Prairie. It's a shared show, but Thursdays is my day of the week. And then, of course, we've got Pop Culture Time Capsule,
Yes.
which we're getting ready to do an episode of here
Sunday
in just a little
night,
bit.
we come in, we hit it at 8 o'clock for 90 minutes. You, myself, and station manager Jeff Robbins talk about pop culture events of a particular year.
And we got a good one coming up.
We do. You want to tune in to hear all of that. Next week, I'm going to have Landon stepping in. He is my new full-time co-host, my 12-year-old son. Really excited about that. He's got a really fun topic we're going to be talking about. So
You got
to tune in to hear about it, though.
Oh, okay, so no, we're just a tease.
Just a tease, but it's going to be really interesting. So hopefully that comes out as well as I hope it does. But that will be our next show next Wednesday. You want to play some music on our way out?
Sure, let's do it.
I'll give you a choice. But anyways, until next week, I'm Jameson.
I'm Anthony.
Reminding you, it's time for 5.